tab and hit your reminders for the next watch along. But screen 2, Google Sheet, let's go, people. Let me zoom in a bit for you guys. Now we've got a little bit of, you see me, I try and find little things to talk about with you lot, you know. We're going to go back into doing more. I'm going to start bringing in more neutral streams because on my podcast, I like to talk about football as in general, and it wouldn't make sense to not do that on my YouTube channel. I know I love Arsenal. I ramble about Arsenal a lot, but there's more to life than Arsenal. And I know a lot of you have come into contact with me or find out about my stuff for content that has nothing to do with Arsenal. You know, Ollie's normally in the comments. He's a Chelsea fan. I know I've got Ahmad, who's a moderator, United fan. He ain't got nothing to do with Arsenal. So they're obviously here for a reason. So in terms of bettering myself and, you know, showing you, look, there's more to life than just Arsenal. It is what it is. But we'll speak about that. You know, Holding's new deal, we'll get onto that. But I'm sure a lot of you, you know, the first comment I actually saw in here, people, was about Saliba. I can't say that name, but big up yourself. He said Saliba for loan, sell Mustafi. You know, you've got LG up in the building. Big up yourself because you're always locked in as well. You know, he's saying Holding and Gabriel, main 2, Marie and Saliba as backups. That should be all our centre halves. Trust me, my guy, you're onto something there, but we're going to crack on. But before I offer my personal opinions and take you lot's personal opinions, let's actually see what actually is floating around. Now, Saliba's been linked with a move away. Now, do you know what? Better yet, before I start offering my opinions, let me just show the thing in it. This is the latest we're at in relation to Saliba. Apparently, and you got to remember, I'm not gonna lie, this GFM business and L'Equipe, I don't think they like Arsenal. They have to sensationalize business. Also, we have to remember Ornstein 5 or 6 days ago said the plan is to loan out William Saliba. But if I was him, I would entertain permanent offers. You know, you've had AC Milan interested in you. You've had top European teams that had to contest with Arsenal, and he's an Arsenal fan. The French ties, what we're doing with young players, swayed him. So that could be something to consider. And I'm also, before I forget this point, and I'm also looking at it as, yeah, you know, 30 million might look like peanuts if he develops, but okay, cool. We spent 20, 30 million on my man. He ain't playing. You know, if we can get 20, 30 million back for him, can that be reinvested to a new centre half, allegedly, the Aura staff, and all of these sort of things? I think it would be extremely idiotic to sell Saliba. First and foremost, he's got potential, you know, and that's my problem with Arsenal. We sign players with potential and we don't have a plan. Pepe's a bit different, and Pepe has to answer for his sins individually for playing poorly. But did we sign him and think, oh, how are we going to use him? He looks good on the counter. He looks good when there's space. We just sign good players. We don't know how they're going to fit into our system. And that goes for young players. And for me, you know, as an Arsenal fan, we've been here for years. You know, big up Theo Walcott. He was here from 16, his whole life, even to now. Striker or a winger or a striker. You know, we're saying the same about Oxlade-Chamberlain. We're saying what is Ramsey in terms of specific midfield role. Jack Wilshere the same. That's what we like to do, and we're going to make the same mistake with these young players. You know, you've got the Smith Rowes, you've got the Joe Willocks, you've got the Salibas, you've got the Martinellis, you've got the Sakas. I'm not saying they can't play in other roles, but I want to see as a club specific plans for how we're going to make them the players of tomorrow. We know Martinelli's a striker long term, but I see no reason why that man can't be someone who, yeah, he's a striker, but he locks down the left wing and he can be effective if needed on the right. Joe Willock, you know, short term, you know, when he's thrown in games like City where he has to press, that's great. But long term, how do we see him? If you see him as a creative midfielder, which I don't, how are you going to make him into that? Because his awareness of space isn't there. His ability to manipulate the ball in tight spaces, the positions he takes up, you know, decision making, these are all not levels right now. So how are you going to make him into that? Saliba, and this is my pet peeve with potential, this potential buzzword. Everyone's got potential. It's how you harness it. How are you going to make Saliba that French international, that world-class, top-class player, that sort of player that is part of this golden generation of France, you know, Rolls Royce of a defender, as he's been referred to as by people with Arsenal, next centre half for a decade, as former Raul Sanche said. He's not that today. So cool, you don't think he's levels, he can't play right now. I have something to say over that. I'd rather give him cup games, and when I'm seeing the young attacking players get chances, I don't see why it's Saliba can't. You know, shout out Mustafi, shout out Socrates. I'm not going to make this one getting at them, but you know, Socrates is probably more likely to play this season than Saliba, and he's been marginalized. Mustafi, who's, you know, said he's rejected a new deal, whether it's to protect his resale value or not. He's clearly not levels. He's clearly not there. You're utilizing him more than Saliba. And, you know, there's been no plan. You've robbed the man of how many months of football? You've not included him in the Europa League. You've, apart from the Liverpool Community Shield, you've not bust him. You know, let him go out on loan. If you don't think he's levels, cool. I think he could have stayed last season and not gone to St. Etienne, because I want him to fail fast in the sense of there's no substitute for experience. Throw a man in at the deep and obviously hold his hand a bit and save him, but Saliba's not gonna develop unless he gets terrorized by defenders. I mean, by strikers. You look at the best defenders in the world and of all time; they're not gonna succeed unless they never got torn a new one at some point. You only learn when you're in these situations, and there's no substitute for experience. It's different, but we'll get on to Rob Holding. I think Rob Holding will starve the football, and this is why I can see naiveties in his game. Mavropanos the same, and he's now playing catch up. Obviously, he's had injuries, and obviously, sometimes you can see why a player isn't thrown in. We bang about players to sign and play and play. They get thrown in, and you can see, all right, cool. The manager's clearly seeing this week in, week out at training. That's why, because I've seen that a bit with Mavropanos. You remember Mavropanos against Watford? You remember the sending off against Leicester? I could be wrong. You know, you remember against Crystal Palace, he gave away that free kick, which led to Mustafi being stupid for Benteke to score. These are things defenders are going to learn. Gabriel's still making mistakes. Gabriel's still inexperienced, but he's got more experience than Saliba for obvious reasons. So, but you're seeing you're seeing Gabriel's a quality player, but you're seeing there's elements you need to edge out of his game. Like sometimes he likes to pass, but sometimes, you know, he makes that silly pass where it's a bit under hit. One day someone's going to score from that. Do you know, we know he's my sort of defender. He's a bit like Koscielny. I like my defenders that like to step in, like to try to nip the ball in front of the defender, that are very aggressive. But you know, you're going to give fouls away. And like you've seen, you know, needless sending off from him in the lot. And I can't remember who he played, but when he got sent off, you know, halfway line. These are lessons that man have to learn, and we're going to get there with a lot of these young players, Saliba included, if he stays, and say, yo, how are we going to get him there? You know, how are you going to, because the one game, Saliba's had many good games and he's got elite mentality, but the one game that sticks out for me is St. Etienne last season versus Metz, or one of them years, or maybe even the year before. Diallo, who was linked with Spurs, tore him a new one, faster, stronger. He had no answers, but I guarantee he learned a lot. If you don't think he's levels, I don't mind, because there's too much pressure on these young players. Man that are banging on for Saliba to start will start crying about him tomorrow, rather than looking at it as that, yes, he's got potential and all of these things, but he's not there today. I don't see a plan. And I could forgive Saliba for actually wanting to leave, because you know I'm an Arsenal fan. You've done all the videos about me. You've spoken about me since the minute I've come in now. You know, you sent man on loan, said, all right, cool. Last season, get your experience, do what you can, and you're coming to Arsenal. He's come to Arsenal. He's been sold dreams. He's not playing. He's training, but he's not playing. For me, loan him out. Now, like you can see here, a meeting between Arsenal and William Saliba last week saw both parties agree to be open to accepting both permanent and loan departure opportunities this month. I could only see him being sold for, well, I can see him being sold permanently because Arsenal scream incompetence, but at the same time, I could only see us entertaining a permanent one if it's cool. You're going to give us our bread back up front, and we can more use that now for someone that's going to hit the ground running. We're linked with a centre half. You know, for me, I don't mind him going out on loan. For me, first things first, I'd like him to go on loan to the Premier League, because there's less, you know, we're seeing him close up. There's less question marks. I don't mind him going to the Championship. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned in the Championship for a young, on the large part, inexperienced striker. Defender. There's a lot of games to play. For one, you know, you're going against some experienced strikers. You're going against poachers, powerhouses, target men, all of these things. And he's going to have to be able to show consistency. We need to have listen, Ornstein said that we're trying to loan him out, but I don't know in it. So this is what these men are saying in it. He needs to be, that's one of the top priorities for January. You know, next week or the week after, he needs to go on loan, whether that's back to France to St. Etienne, whether that's to the Championship, whether that's to the Premier League. Apparently, you see conflicting reports. Apparently, he's hell-bent on going to St. Etienne on loan, and he tried to in the summer. Apparently, he wants to stay in England, whether that be the Championship or the Premier League, to help him acclimatize, or whatever the word is. I can't say it. And for me, why it'd be stupid to sell him? The man ain't even made his debut. We really bought him for his only appearance and all this hype and all these things to be MK Dons. Again, I don't know the truth, but like my man said here, big up Brutally Guna. If Saliba leaves without kicking the ball on a permanent deal, I'm not gonna say the rest, but it don't really make sense. And for me, it screams incompetence with Edu. You know, Edu himself has said he's 4, you know, there's about 3, 4, maybe even he said 5 that are behind him. So loan him out. If you knew, listen, you don't stumble across things overnight, you know. I very much doubt that Saliba walked in pre-season and we sat there and went, oh, no, he's not ready. He's not levels. It doesn't make sense to me. And if that is it, that again screams reactive, something this football club is. And we need to be proactive. For me, if you really have a loan, listen, you signed him 2 years ago. Yeah, you were obviously scouting. You know what, he just buy someone. You know, you was doing your scouting, you was doing your due diligence and seeing how he fitted in. If you scout someone, the more you watch them, the more you learn. So you know what he's good at, you know what he's bad at, you know he's got potential, you know he's had this good game, you know he's had that bad game. Then obviously you've reported that back to Arsenal. So you have a base level of this man's potential and where you think he can go. You then made him permanently, where we're still scouting him, because obviously if you loan a man out, you want to know how he's doing. You hear we got loan manager and things. So I imagine the loan manager or his team at this club must have been watching Saliba and giving Arteta or the relevant parties some weekly or bi-weekly analysis. Oh, Saliba played well this game, boom, 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 and keeping in contact with my man. Then come the summer, there must have been some sort of report, end of season report card. Now, we know last season for Saliba was cut short. He was done dirty a lot since he signed for Arsenal. He ain't been able to play in a cup final that he should have. He's been done dirty a lot. His season was ruined last year because of Corona. But we must have had an end of season report. Okay, he had a 7 out of 10 in this. He had this amount of 7 out of 10s, this amount of 5s, this amount of this. This is where I think he needs to improve. This is where I think his level was at. I think he needs to go out on loan, or I think he's ready to play in the Prem. So for Arteta, and bearing in mind, last season Saliba came week in, week out on occasion to train with Arsenal. So Arteta got to see him a little bit. So he said, all right, cool. That's how he's gone this season. What level do you reckon he's at? I think he could be part of the squad. It might be reckoned for him to go out on loan. Cool. Arteta must have considered all of this information and the report that his loan man, or if a loan manager whose job is to keep track of these loan players, these Tyreses, these Salibas, and he's not reporting proper reports, then what's the point? How are we meant to track his progress? So Arteta, when he's looking at the rebuild, for his squad, he must have known his Saliba's level or true playing level. And if he didn't, and he wanted pre-season to run the rule over him, and he said, all right, cool, he's not of the level, I think. For us fans, it looks pointless because I'd rather this young, inexperienced player get more opportunities than certain incompetent veterans. But he's all right, cool. You're not going to use him. You ran the rule over him in pre-season. Very early on, we should be saying, cool, this is the man that we don't think his level's right now, but tomorrow and in a couple of years, he can be the man. Let's get him a loan spot. Let's get him early doors to the Premier League. Let's get him back to St. Etienne if the personal stuff as well was prevalent at that time. It's been very reactive, It don't look good. You've talked a good game to the man. You've talked a good game to the fans. And then on the last day of the season, you're trying to throw him around and palm him around. And you're telling us you feel sad about leaving him and Ozil and all these players out of Europa League and things. You don't, or you wouldn't do it. Or you don't stumble across here overnight. And I keep hearing collaborative with this football club. That's the buzzword. That's all I keep hearing. And I don't really see collaboration because, again, Arteta can't, he can't dedicate all his time to improving Saliba, trying to get the best out of Pepe and things. He's got to have a team around him. And that's where I don't see how we've collaborated, because we've obviously identified him with the scouting team. We've obviously signed my man. Then we've obviously, if we have not watched every game this guy has played since he signed for this club, or it'll be on, that's problems. We had a low manager that must be signing and reporting. Yeah, you've got Arteta, who you're not gonna wake up overnight and say boom, boom, this, that, and the third. You're not. You're gonna know this. It's the same way you're gonna wake up and you know what you're doing. And then you hear you've got individual coaches. That young guy, 24 years of age, we hear his role is literally to improve individual players. This is where I get at collaboration, because if you've got a loan report, you've got a loan report from from the loan manager saying where his level is at, and where you think he's at. You've ran the rule over him. So why not delegate tasks to your individual guy? Say, yo, you know what? I need you to work with Saliba. I think he's concerning at this, and the other. The loan manager said this, and boom, from last season. I need you lot to work with him at least until next season, or when we can loan him out, or we need to find him on loan. And that's where we weren't proactive. We weren't proactive with finding a home for Saliba, probably even pushing out the Reece Nelsons, the Joe Willocks, the Eddie Nketiahs to get 20, 30 games, people, because it does scream a bit comfortable here and ultimately reactive. And for me, it's again, it's concerning that Arteta can sit there and say, rather Mustafi, maybe at a push even Socrates who could leave, then giving Saliba a chance. I'm not saying Arteta hasn't made any of these young players, but who has he really put his hat on? Because he can't even claim Smith Rowe. Obviously, if he develops Smith Rowe, we give him clout. Do you get it? I'm not getting at that. But Smith Rowe made his debut way before this. Even Emre was on using Smith Rowe at a point. Remember Fulham last season, or the season under Emre, where we turned it around and we scored like 5 goals. We're in the burgundy kit, Saka giving his chance under Emre. Fair enough, Balogun's been baptized under Arteta, but he's not even using Balogun like that. We have to be coaching and improving players, young players and players that are already in the squad is something I need to see. And I haven't really seen him put a hat over a young player saying, yo, this is my guy, because he's using Martinelli now. Prior to Martinelli's injury, weren't really messing with him. He has started Reece Nelson in big games, but do I think he's looking at Reece Nelson as someone levels? No. fair enough, he's used Eddie ahead of Lacazette at times, but you get the point. There's not really one young player I've said, all right, cool. Uzi put his hat on. He ain't put his hat on Saliba. And for me, the Salibas, the Smith Rowes, the Sakas, these are the guys you got to be getting on side. These are the guys that, they're meant to be. You want to build a new mentality. Old habits die hard. Forget these experienced players to a degree. Build your new sort of ethos and what you want to see with the leaders of this team of tomorrow, people. Again, it just screams incompetence, and I hope we can find a home for Saliba. Again, that David Ornstein said that we're not trying to sell him. I don't work with Arsenal. I don't know anything with Arsenal, so I have to assume everything is possible. Really, I just want him to find a home. It screams incompetence, and for me, the L, because again, it would further confirm that we're mismanaging. Like I said, Kroenke needs to leave my football club. I ain't got no time for Kroenke, people. That's a fact. But at the same time, and I think he's invested a lack of funds. But when you look at the net spend and the money that's been available to Arsenal, it's been mismanaged by those individuals. I've always said, Lacazette's been a good player for us, but he's underwhelmed. He's not been the man we thought we was grabbing from Lyon. Tell me I'm lying. Pepe's a decent player, but he's hot and cold. Mustafi and Xhaka, two members of this team, have not justified their price tag. We've made in recent years expensive free signings like Kolasinac, who we just got 3 million loan fee from, like William, like Mkhitaryan. It's not always just transfer fees that you say mismanaged. And then you look at it, you'd have to add Saliba because you spent 30 million on a man, You've messed up his progress for this year. You've messed around in playing last year, You spent 30 million or so, in total 30 million, and the man ain't kicked a ball in an official game for us. And he allegedly, and he's gonna leave, That for me screams incompetence. So even though I don't defend Kroenke, how are you justifying to them man there that you're spending the funds well put? That further confirms that we've had no plan. We've been reactive. We're just signing a man, ultimately mismanaging finances at a time where Arsenal need to watch their pennies and pounds a bit more than any other team, really, because we know we're broke and we know there's COVID and things. So we need to know what we're doing. And for me, when you have a young player like this, man, develop him. I'm not going to do the Fofana thing and mention him because the situations could be different, but there's not too much in Saliba and Fofana. Fofana's playing week in, week out. He's clearly ahead of Saliba now by a distance. Walk on. That's the bravery of Rodgers. Rodgers has a defensive system. I'm not saying they're defensive, but they know how to defend. Fofana's got experienced man to lean upon. He's got, he can learn a lot from Johnny Evans. Obviously, Siyunchu's been injured. You can learn from Wes Morgan. Big up the yard man, Wes Morgan. I'm missing out a centre half, but there's plenty of man. He's got Kolo Touré, invincible. Kolo Touré on the coaching staff that he can learn upon. What are we doing? Mertesaker's the head of academy, but you've got Mertesaker there. You've got Steve Bold there. There's certain things that could be done. Now, I look at us. I'm not saying we should throw Gabriel and Saliba in. I would, but week in, week out, that's a young and naive pairing. We need that sort of middle partner. But you can't tell me Saliba couldn't have got game time, especially when we're playing three at the back. When I have watched him at the under-23s, I'm not going to sit here and lie. He has done some shaky things. He's not the man that man think he is going to be tomorrow, but that doesn't mean we can't develop, man. He needs to go, and he's probably been sold a dream, really and truly. It don't make sense. For me, it doesn't make sense. I know Mustafi, he's probably looked at it and said, all right, cool, Mustafi, them and they are not going to play significant football for me. It's going to be David Luiz, and that's another case in itself, because we've heard the whole David Luiz versus Arteta business, but he's gone. David Luiz will get game time. I don't think he was sure on Holding, and we'll speak about Holding, but Holding's played his way into his plan. So he said, you know what, there's Holding here. There, Mustafi's going to play no football, but I can utilize Mustafi if need be. I'll look to use Socrates. Chambers is there. My main guys is probably Gabriel, David Luiz. Marie's there. So he's probably said, you know what, I've got enough options. I can't guarantee game time, which is cool. Go and loan out the man, but for me, that's why I look at it concerning, because I get it. If you're not gonna use Mustafi too tough, and he's just about and a spare piece, and if there's your occasional Europa League game or something, you're gonna pull upon him. I get it, but make sure this man gets out on loan. And for me, it doesn't scream stuff, because you'd rather have a man. I'm not saying Mustafi's dishonest at all. I'm not questioning Mustafi's integrity, but for me, it don't look good as a fan. You've got this young centre half who you've been gassing up yourself as well as the whole club. You've been saying all of this thing. Yeah. And then you're going with Mustafi, who's a serial. Yeah, Chambers' injury is why Mustafi got chances, but Mustafi has been a failure. Mustafi will let you down. You know, he's rejected a new deal, rightly so. So that tells you his mindset is going elsewhere. So he's not fully part of this cause like that. Yeah, he'll be professional, but he's not part of this cause. And you're giving him captaincy. This don't send out a good message. This further confirms to me that Arteta is just putting all his eggs in the experienced man, and they're the ones letting him down. They're the ones just hearing about bust-ups. You know, it's all the David Luiz, Williams, Mustafi, Socrates, all of these guys are in the articles and things, and have either been failing on a football point of view or just allowing it. For me, again, loan out Saliba, get him some game time, and if not, we're in trouble, people. Simple as that. Moving away from that, as you saw, that was that. What else did I see? Like I said, according to them, we're open to loans and permanent offers, people. For me, give us our 30 mil back up front or nothing, because at least I can sit there and say, all right, cool, go and use that 30 mil and go and get a level centre half. Go and put whatever little bread, whatever Christmas money you had already, go and take this 30 mil and bring me a centre half. Because I don't want to see Saliba leave this club. I can't blame Saliba if he wants to leave and he feels disillusioned and whatnot. But I can't blame him. And for me, what concerns me is how are you going to make him a star of tomorrow? You know, that's what we used to do as Arsenal Football Club. We'll take, man, develop them. You know, now we're just signing, man, and there's nothing really in terms of development. Make him, you know, we don't buy superstars, we make them. And I feel Arteta is buckling, developing players. You know, he's put his hat on Smith Rowe now. Let's see if that continues. You know, like I said, no debut. There was talk on loan, and I believe, you know, that's still the same thing. You know, and I still believe that will be it. And like I said, man, they have to. If this doesn't happen, I know Edu could say, well, it's not me. You know, Edu could say, well, it's not me. Arteta could say, well, it's not my signing. But someone's got to justify this mismanagement. And even, you know, Kroenke must. I'm not backing Kroenke at all, but he must look at that and go, boy, this brother didn't play an official game. What do you mean he's not levels? What do you mean you made a mistake? You keep making mistakes. No, keep him. And for me, why it would be stupid, or the only reason I could get it or condone it, is if, like I said, people, we all know people are running out of contract. You know, Mustafi and Socrates should not be here next year in an ideal world. Neither should David Luiz. So that's 3 man gone already. So we've heard talk of signing a centre half already. You need one. So a spot should open up for Saliba. So if you're saying, cool, boom, go on loan this year, go on loan in January, next season, it's a serious one, because who is our centre half options next year, people? And like I said, we have to justify the mismanagement. You know, you've messed around with a loan, you've cost him a cup final, you've never had a plan. You're just signing people with potential, as I said, people. Scrolling up a bit, and this was mainly to talk about holding, but in an ideal world, with these 3 gone, people, would this not be your centre halves? You know, Gabriel, you know, clearly, ideally, is there, first name on the team sheet. He's only been missing because of Corona and suspensions and them things there. In no order as well, Saliba's got to be involved if still here. You know, Rob Holding, there's talk of getting a new deal. Obviously, we're seeing 3 centre halves leave. There is a bit of, you know, Holding is homegrown. I don't think Holding will be happy to be on the bench, but he won't. I don't see him kicking up a fuss. You know, he's what, 25. He is improving. He isn't a bad defender, so I can see him being part of the squad. By default, Marie. Now, if I'm truly honest with you lot, you know, these are the only ones I'm really putting my hat on and saying, yo, you man are levels. You know, I've liked what I've seen from Marie, but I'm not sure of his true level yet. Only time will tell with that. There's talk of a new centre half, which would present us with 5 options. For me, you need 5 centre half minimum in your squad. You know, 2 of the main starters. Obviously, there's injuries, there's rotation and things like that. And I believe you need a 5th man. Now, is that going to be Mavropanos? He signed a new deal before going out on loan. You know, I wouldn't. Gabriel, Saliba, Holding, Marie, Mavropanos. It's not the worst options. I definitely got more time for that than them man there, but yeah, would be missing a trick. And obviously, we've heard a right-sided centre half, which should be Saliba. Turn him into that. You know, you need a plan. You ain't got a plan, and this is why I'm not really happy when we're signing people. And if it is gone, you know, the manager, Edu, they've got a lot to happen, man. You should set up a Patreon ad sub. I have a membership page. Check out the membership. It should be at the bottom of this vid. But if you don't want a Patreon page, man said Patreon, I'm thinking of too much alcohol. If you want a Patreon page, I'll get to that, my guy, really and truly, because I know some of you are watching in another country, and this is what I'm saying, yo. And I think GFN, well, GFFN, they always, I'm sure you all see on Twitter, they're always getting at Arsenal. They're always talking nonsense about Arsenal. They're always being, you know, doing all of that sort of thing. So they're probably sensationalizing it. So it needs to be a loan, like S said, you know, 6-month loan. Let him go out, get some football, you know, and it is what it is. He has been underwhelming. Pepe has been underwhelming, but at the same time, that's what I'm talking about. Mismanagement of finances. How would you, if Pepe went to Liverpool or somewhere else, I'm not saying he wouldn't be underwhelming, but would you see a bit more of a tune out of him? Probably, because it looks like they've got a system. It just seems like we're just signing players who are having standout seasons or on a radar. We're not signing people that are gonna, they're a piece of a puzzle sort of thing. That's just what I feel, man. So it is what it is. I wouldn't mind him going to Sheffield United. You'd learn a lot under Chris Wilder. There's also Fulham. I think Brentford in the Championship would be good for him. There's plenty of options he could go on. Let's avoid doing dumb stuff like that. Come on, you're gonna have to hold a block for that. You can't just be throwing out them things. So what is it when he's playing Aubameyang, playing Saka week in, week out, and all of these things? Come on now, like let's not. These are so the internet's crazy, man. The internet is crazy. You can go around just saying stupid stuff about people. It don't make sense, man. Don't say stupid ish like that. Chambers, again, the only thing for me that could save Chambers is being homegrown. I could see him doing the homegrown thing. We could keep him on that angle. I actually think Arteta likes Chambers, because wasn't he playing when Thingy came, when he first came? And I think Chambers had a decent bit of form that day. And Chambers' injury for me is why Mustafi's had some sort of resurgence, because his injury forced him to step up and things like that. To step up and things like that. So we'll have to see how it goes. I think Chambers is one of them that could be sold. He's someone that could be let go, and probably someone that should be let go. I don't mind him staying part of the team. I think what I like about Chambers, he don't try to do things above his pay grade, but at the same time, we need to free up squads. We've got in isolation, we've got too many, I think, players that would be all right in isolation in the squad, but it is what it is. I wouldn't force Chambers out, because there's a lot of mix and matching to be happening, but it's down to Chambers, man. He's someone that's got to probably go and get game time. Because like I said, there's a lot of changes happening at centre half, as you lot can see, people. I'd love him to go and get a Premier League loan. Let me look at the Premier League table real quick and just look at clubs. I wouldn't mind him going to Saliba. Or ironically, I wouldn't mind him going to Aston Villa. West Brom could be good under Sam Allardyce, in the thick of it. Brighton, they play forward-thinking football. Palace would be good for him. West Ham, I'm not too sure, but they're linked with a centre-half. That could be something. Villa, you look at what they did with Axel Teshabi. I don't know why it's not letting me scroll down to the team that's bottom, which is Sheffield. There's a couple teams. First choice for me would be a Premier League loan. Second choice, I'd like him to obviously go to the Germanys or back to France or anything like that. And then obviously I wouldn't mind the Championship. I think there's a lot to be said. I wouldn't say that. We need to be very careful on calling man troublemakers and these things, because we don't know. I don't think William Saliba is a troublemaker, but I don't know anything. He could, I don't know. Moving on to Rob Holding.